Hello, welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Leadership in Sport. My name is Katie Simmons and I'm the Global COO at SIGA. I'm so excited and proud to have the honour of opening this global thought leadership event. Over the next 3 days, we will hear from 85 speakers from around the world with thousands of registered delegates. Organising this has certainly kept me and the SIGA team busy in lockdown. Thank you to each and every one of you who has registered, women and men. Your contributions and commitment to progressive change make a real difference. Thank you to the 100 SIGA Women Global Mentors and Mentees for participating in our mentorship programme and supporting our efforts. We are creating a sisterhood and a safe space to progress this cause. Thank you to all the female leaders and athletes who have answered our call to speak and share their insights and show the strength of female leadership in action. Thank you for standing with SIGA for promoting gender equity in sport at all levels, be it participation on the field of play or in the decision-making structures at board level. Today is International Women's Day, but we are not flying this flag because of one day in a year. This is on our agenda 365 days a year. We have a global agenda on this issue. It underpins the SIGA Universal Standards on Good Governance in Sport. And it matters because diversity and inclusion matters. It matters because there are still barriers to break down in our society and in sport, whether it be race, gender, or any other aspect of diversity and inclusion. These issues will not simply go away without affirmative action. In fact, female representation in the international federations is decreasing rather than increasing. COVID presents our pivotal moment, our opportunity to reimagine and rethink leadership in sport. We must not delay, we must act now, stand up and be counted. It astounds me that today in 2021, we're still celebrating firsts. The first female to achieve a position previously only held by men. The first female coach on a male team. The first woman to win a title for her country in her chosen sport. The first female CEO, President, Secretary General of a sports federations. Now we must go beyond celebrating firsts. We all know that for diversity and inclusion to matter, we need more than a figurehead, more than just one person. We need it integrated into the very culture of an organisation, from grassroots right up the way to the boardroom. This is what the SIGA Universal Standards and the SIGA Independent Rating and Verification System serves, is designed to do. To instigate deep-seated cultural change and with it bring about greater accountability to sport, an industry that is cherished and celebrated by millions around the world. At the same time, we also need to create a legacy for the next generation of female leaders, lending a helping hand to those that come after us. The logic is simple. As women in the industry, we face the same prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination. Why not share these experiences and make it easier for those that tread the path after us? When I look back at my career journey, I've had equal measure of helpful women and helpful men. But likewise, I've experienced unhelpful women and unhelpful men. And as women, I ask you, we need to stand together. We cannot solve this without uniting. We must look out for each other, not just ourselves. This is what the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Programme represents. If you are put in a position of authority, use it. If you've smashed the ceiling, don't relax and stop there. Rather strive harder, drop a rope and pull the next leader up. Join our mentorship programme with the opportunity to rethink leadership and create a future with integrities and in values at its centre. I'm overwhelmed by the global community we are building together. We've people from over 30 countries involved in our programme and it's rapidly expanding. Young, aspirational women in the industry are paired with a mentor that has pierced the glass ceiling and they learn from each other over the course of a year. This Web Summit is the pinnacle of the programme. During the next 3 days, we will hold 12 webinars and 2 digital interactive workshops for mentees on important subjects such as leadership and sexual harassment and discrimination in sport, sadly an issue that's not going away. We will also have keynote speakers and special messages from around the world. I want to make it clear that this Web Summit is not an event in itself, and it's not an end in itself. As an organisation, SIGA is not interested in hosting events for the sake of events. It's a trigger for female empowerment and a catalyst for cultural change. And it's also an opportunity for celebration, for taking stock of where we are now in our trajectory for equality and celebrating the moment. A moment of inspiration and, more importantly, instigation, to disrupt the status quo and create gender equality in the boardrooms of sports organisations. I'll keep my opening short because I'm so excited to hear from all the amazing speakers in the next 3 days. As you can see, we have huge ambition, but we are only as strong as our collective effort. We can all do more to help instigate change. Individuals, join our #StandWithSIGA campaign and support our sport integrity goals. Organisations, join SIGA. We're the world's largest coalition in sports integrity. Membership is the lifeblood of our organisation and secures our independence. Play your part in the future of sports governance. Brands, we need you. Today's youth are morally conscious. They back causes. If you sponsor sport and diversity is at the core of your brand, hold sports organisations accountable. Sport, choose courage over comfort. I wish you all an impactful SIGA Web Summit on female leadership in sport. Together, let's shape and empower the future. Thank you.
Katie, thank you very much indeed. A very good afternoon and welcome to SIGA's Female Leadership in Sport Web Summit. Ben Jacobs with you on day one. Happy International Women's Day. Please do engage with us using the #SIGAWomen and tell us some of your favourite female role models as well. I'll read some of them out a little bit later. The first webinar gets underway very shortly, but before all of that, we've got some sensational opening keynote speeches. In a moment, you'll hear from Emmanuel Macedo de Medeiros, the Global CEO of SIGA. Maria Gabriel as well is with us, the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education, Youth and Sport. What a job title that is. Tatiana Valavea will speak as well. She is the Director General at the United Nations Office at Geneva. And Diana Bracco is with us too, the Vice President of B20 and the President of the Bracco Group. But before all of that, to kick things off, it's a very good afternoon to the Secretary General at FIFA, Fatma Samora.
Hello everyone. My warmest greetings to you on International Women's Day. I'm delighted to be with you today as part of SIGA's inaugural Web Summit on Women Leadership in Sport. Women receiving equal opportunities in sport is a cause FIFA and SIGA both believe in. So it's quite fitting that FIFA first ever female Secretary General, me, is participating in SIGA's ever first female leadership in sport Web Summit. UN Women defined this year's International Women's Day theme as Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. And at FIFA, achieving an equal future for everyone involved in football is something we have been working on before the pandemic hit and continue to work on now. FIFA's work to achieving equality really kicked off in 2019 following the election of Gianni Infantino. Right after his election, Gianni began a battle against all forms of corruption in football and a mission to transform FIFA into an egalitarian organization. Today, I'm proud of what we have achieved at FIFA in terms of women in leadership. FIFA not only has a female Secretary General for the first time in his history, it also has 3 female chief officers, 1 for women's football, one for human resources and services, and one for education and human rights, who is also the Secretary General of FIFA Foundation. Today we have 39 female members sitting on FIFA committees and 16 female Secretary General in member associations around the world. Women leaders are very much on the rise in football. We only have to look at the amazing success of the FIFA Women's World Cup in France in 2019 to see how far we have come on the equalitarian journey in football. The statistics alone show how much women's football has developed over the previous years and point to an amazing future for the women's game. More than 1 billion people around the world tune in to watch the FIFA Women's World Cup on TV, and close to 500 million people viewed the competition on digital platform. On average, 17 million viewers tune in for live matches, so you can see that women's football is surging toward in popularity. At FIFA, we continue to develop the women's game, and we have invested $1 billion into women's football under the current cycle 2019-2022 to grow the game on and off the pitch. With more investment, of course, comes enhanced oversight and control, and of course also need for greater transparency and integrity, and these are themes that resonate strongly with today's SIGA Women in Leadership webinar. Integrity, good governance, and equality are at the epicenter of everything FIFA does through football. As a guardian of the most popular game in the world, we are committed to protecting these principles and, of course, preserving the integrity of the game we all love. Our commitment to integrity extends to the action on the pitch and tackling match manipulation, a threat that undermines the integrity and credibility of football. But we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has also had an effect on football, and we have taken careful steps to protect women's football during this difficult time through our FIFA COVID-19 Relief Fund. In addition to distributing $1.5 billion in relief fund to member associations and to the Confederation, the FIFA COVID Relief Fund will provide each of our 211 member associations with an additional $500 million specifically dedicated for women's football. It was also during this difficult time and the disrupted world we're living in that we initiated a series of landmark reforms to protect female players and coaches through new minimum good standards, and maternity leave is one of them, with 14 weeks, and mandatory support including 2/3 of their salaries being paid while on maternity leave, and full medical and physical support upon their return to football. We continue to nurture and develop our female football leaders so that we level the playing field and pave the way for equality in the beautiful game. To do this, we have launched the first ever Women's Football Administrators Handbook to equip administrators with the tools they need to run the female game. We support our sisters at member association levels through our Women in Football Leadership Programme, which has been attended today by 54 women from 45 member associations. We host regional workshops throughout the world so we can support our sisters across the Confederation. We also support female players and coaches in their development through our FIFA Coach Mentoring Program, and have assisted numerous member associations and the Sixth Confederation in creating tailor-made strategies for the women game. In addition to laying solid foundation for female leadership in football, we put focus on female youth tournament like the 2022 Under-17 Women World Cup in India. This competition, scheduled for next year, will provide young players, especially women, with the opportunity to experience international women football at the highest level and to become inspired to compete in the ultimate competition, the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2023. The next edition will be hosted for the first time in the history of FIFA by two different confederations, and more specifically in Australia and in New Zealand. This is quite innovative. Not only will it be the first ever Women World Cup to be hosted by two countries, it will have also a new playoff tournament added to its qualifiers, have an expanded number of teams from 24 to 32, and have at least double the prize money of the previous FIFA World Cup. It's my belief, and that of the many talented and strong women working at FIFA, that we are working to achieve an equal present, not just an equal future, for women in football. And I hope that I have inspired you to implement positive steps to achieve an equal present for women in sport and in your organization. It is only by choosing to challenge the status quo and innovating that we can move forward a bright and fair future for everyone. Enjoy the rest of the webinar.
I'm honored to speak to you today as a Women Empowerment Ambassador to the V20, the global business community's voice for the G20. I'd like to thank the Sport Integrity Global Alliance for the invitation and for organizing this event dedicated to female leadership in sport on the meaningful date of March 8th. Equal opportunities and rights must be achieved at the same time in all areas, from education to training, from work opportunities to policies on diversity, and of course also in sports. In fact, I'd like to say straight off that due to its significant value and its global impact, sport is a particularly important environment, especially because there is still so much to do. In the field of sports, beginning with the federations and the management bodies at the international level, barriers, differences, and deep-rooted prejudice persist. In recent news, there has been a change at the head of the organizing committee for the Tokyo Olympics. Less than 6 months from the start of the Games, Seiko Hashimoto, a 56-year-old lawyer and legend of Japanese sport who participated in 7 Olympic Games, has replaced Yoshiro Mori following the unfortunate sexist statements which led him to resign suddenly. This episode proves just how difficult it is to eradicate bias. These common prejudices in sport have existed for some time. Just think that Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of modern Olympics, in 1896 had banned women from the Games in Athens with the following reason: allowing them to participate would not be practical nor interesting and would be unattractive and inappropriate. The same IOC then was born with a sort of original sin. Women and men, however, must enjoy the same opportunities, not only to practice every sport, but also to take part in decision-making at all levels of the sports apparatus, including the global level. Concrete measures are needed to increase positions of leadership in sport-related associations and agencies. But striving for women empowerment means first of all teaching positive ambitions to young girls, starting with their family, breaking the stereotypes and barriers and avoiding a self-limiting approach. Dreaming big is the prerequisite for success. Women have to make their voices heard because sport belongs to everyone, free of gender differences and bias. We can look to female boxers, for instance, or football referees who are blazing the path with distinction. On a personal note, our company has always supported sports. Indeed, we are convinced that sports play a crucial role in young people's growth. Today, it is scientifically proven that routine physical activity increases physical and mental well-being, especially in young people at the developmental stage. Children who practice sports usually obtain better results on memory tests, demonstrating a greater capacity for concentration and showing better coordination. In addition, thanks to more opportunities for social exchanges and the chance to experience environments with different stimuli, they are more receptive and sociable. We therefore view sport as life training and a vehicle for positive values: loyalty, commitment, teamwork, merit, drive, and respect for rules, all values in which the Bracco Group believes strongly. For many years now, we have run a wide-ranging initiative for youth, which involves dozens of schools and sports associations from our regions, with a special focus on girls. For instance, at the moment we are enthusiastically supporting the girl from Bracco Atletica and Pro Patra Volley, whose performance has been very rewarding. We also organize the Bracco Cup, a football tournament that includes a competition dedicated to women's football, a sport that is quite traditionally male. Competitive sports training requires tenacity and determination, traits that these young female athletes use not only in their sport, but in everyday life as well. This is the sport that we believe in, and this is the sport that may enable women to travel the path of women empowerment.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is my great pleasure to address you at the opening of the SIGA web seminar on female leadership in sport. I wish to thank SIGA, the Sports Integrity Global Alliance, for organizing this event on such a timely and important topic. In our divided and fragmented world, sport remains an important connective tissue, binding people together both across and within societies. Sport also has the unique power to transform the world by challenging gender stereotypes, which makes it one of the great drivers of gender equality. Sport teaches us how to work together, to achieve a goal, a bedrock skill needed to implement the global agenda for sustainable development. We should seize every opportunity sport provides to advance our common work towards this goal. Women in sport define deep-rooted gender stereotypes, make inspiring role models, and demonstrate the equality of genders. Yet, we do still have a long way to go in eradicating existing gender biases including in the world of sports. I am convinced that a major step towards this goal will be for women to participate on an equal footing with men in all sports governing bodies and international sports federations. Gender mindsets cannot be changed overnight, but they can be changed. The world of international politics had long been an exclusive area of male dominance. When the United Nations was created 75 years ago, a woman head of state or government was unheard of. The presence of both genders at the negotiating table was rare. In 1945, only 3 out of 850 delegates at the San Francisco Conference were women, including the famous Berta Lutz, who, together with other 2 courageous women delegates, demanded an explicit reference to women's rights in the UN Charter. Importantly, out of the 50 countries represented at the conference, women had voting rights in only 30. It is hard to imagine the different difficulties these 3 brave women were facing while promoting the principle of gender equality in such a male-dominated assembly. Since then, the international community has achieved important steps in advancing women's rights, including through the establishment of the Commission on the States of Women in 1946. Various landmark agreements and policy documents have been adopted, including the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Great female visionaries of the 20th century, such as Berta Lutz or Berta von Suttner before her, undertook a mission considered impossible at the time. However, their collective efforts paid off, and today 22 women occupy the position of head of states or government, and 52 women ambassadors currently serve as permanent representatives of their respective countries in the United Nations offices at New York, Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Promoting gender equality is one of the highest priorities of the United Nations. The Gender Parity Strategy, launched by the Secretary General in 2017, aims to create a more diverse, inclusive, gender-balanced United Nations. To date, gender parity has been reached at the senior managers level of the Secretary General and among resident coordinators. The organization boasts the highest number in its history of women as head and deputy head of missions in peace operations. We are resolute in continuing in this direction and take every opportunity to defy gender stereotypes and promote women's empowerment in all areas of life. UN Geneva is currently organizing a photo exhibition entitled "Not a Woman's Job?" to acknowledge and support women across the globe in professions traditionally associated with a man's world, such as entrepreneurs, filmmakers, security officials, airline pilots, ship captains, or football referees. As a UN gender champion, I am behind this initiative and encourage all permanent missions in Geneva to actively participate in this exhibition, unequivocally demonstrating that all jobs are for all people. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, having worked in a male-dominated sphere during much of my career and being the first female Director General of the United Nations Office at Geneva, one of my main goals is for women and men to have equal opportunities. The time has come to finally break down gender stereotypes. Let us use the unifying power of sport in order to work together in a team to close the gender gap once and for all. Thank you.
Dear friends of sport, it is a pleasure to open the SIGA Web Summit on Female Leadership in Sport. Let me first thank SIGA for its strong commitment in the promotion of gender equality in sport and more generally for defending the key values of good governance and integrity in sport. Sport is indeed about ethics and values, fair play, respect for the adversary, observance of the rules of the game. But sport is also about teamwork with equality and inclusion at its core. Regardless of our age, fitness level, social background or gender, sport should be accessible to us all. We all know that women contribute to greater diversity in sport and that sport organizations benefit economically from better participation of women, be it as athletes, coaches, or leaders of organizations. The SIGA Women Mentorship Programme is a great initiative in this regard, providing unique opportunities for inspiring young female leaders in sport. On our side, I can assure you that gender equality is one of our key principles, mainstreamed in all our policies, including in sport. It underpins all priorities eligible for funding under Erasmus Plus Sport, and projects supporting women's sport are actively encouraged. We aim to promote female role models that could inspire younger generations, achieve gender balance in decision-making positions, encourage gender equality in coaching, fight gender-based violence in sport and negative gender stereotypes. Now there is a momentum, and in addition, we have the right set of tools. First, a European Work Plan for Sport 21-24 that puts gender equality as a core principle. Second, a new and reinforced Erasmus Plus program. Third, our successful European Week of Sport that we can use to raise awareness. Fourth, our Be Inclusive European Sport Awards, where sport organizations can increase social inclusion and can directly address gender equality in sport. And finally, our recently launched high-level group of gender equality in sport. This group is composed of 15 experts who are former athletes, presidents of sport federations, high representatives of the sport movement, former politicians or academics. It met for the first time in February and will meet for a second time in 1 month on 8th of April. By the end of the year, it will produce a report in the form of recommendations. I invite you to follow the work of this high-level group, because our work to empower women is crucial to change mentalities and ensure that women and girls with the talent and ambition to lead reach their full potential. Together, we can have more impact. To conclude, let me say that I stand with SIGA and support the sport integrity goals: good governance, outstanding ethical conduct, accountability, legality, scrutiny. I wish you a good summit. Thank you.
Welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Leadership in Sport. When I was listening to the great female leaders who took the floor before me, I couldn't help remembering myself of one particular moment, some 3.5 years ago, when crossing the skies somewhere between Lisbon and Geneva, I decided to mobilize the whole SIGA community to empower women in sport, to promote gender equality, to create meaningful opportunities for aspiring female leaders. I knew then that one day we would be here with all of you fighting the good fight. Today, it's the International Women's Day, and the world gathers to remember, celebrate, and renew its commitments to women's rights, or in better words, human rights. Today, the world renews its vows to fix things up, to ensure that finally women and girls are treated with justice and dignity, to ensure that they have access to education, access to choose a career, and the freedom to decide about their own lives, their own bodies, their own futures. Then we know what happens. Another day comes by, everybody goes home, and it's business as usual on the following morning. Don't you have this feeling? Don't you have this impression? I certainly do. It shouldn't be so complicated to understand that if we continue at this pace, gender equality in our society and in sport will not happen in our lifetime. The idea, this naive idea that problems can be quick fixed and cultural change can happen overnight, just with grandiloquent speeches and noble proclamations, is a myth. That's, in my view, myth number one. Myth number two, sport has the power. Sport has the power. So begins Nelson Mandela's anthem to sport and its amazing virtues as a force for good, a beacon of light, a dynamo of hope, a catalyst of human development, and of course, respect and dignity for all, regardless of gender, race, age, religion, sexual orientation, or social background. But my God, how far are we from all that? I do not dispute that sport has the power. Let me be clear about that. Of course, sport has the power. But is sport using its power to the fullest? Is sport doing all it can to influence positively our society? Is sport doing everything within its reach to change the needle, to rise up, to match the expectations? In other words, is sport leading by example? How can sport change the world if sport doesn't change itself first? How can sport inspire the world if sport does not inspire itself first and remains crystallized in shackles, locked in the 19th century with obsolete governance structures, opaque financial dealings, and male-dominated boardrooms? How can sport, ladies and gentlemen, make us believe that men and women are equal in rights and therefore must enjoy equal opportunities if sport doesn't walk the talk? So no matter how much money you spend on propaganda, how many spin doctors you bring in, how many cosmetic campaigns you invent, as far as gender equality at the top table is concerned, the truth is inexorable. Are you ready for it? I'll tell you. In 2019, the percentage of women at the top table, I mean women with a seat on the executive committee of the International Sports Federations, was a mere 18.3%. I repeat, 18.3%. Where do you think we are now? Where do you think we stand 2 years later, after the grandiloquent speeches and cornucopias of promises that have been made? Where do we stand 1 year after the beginning of this devastating global pandemic and all the promises that you have heard about a new El Dorado, a new beginning, a new and formidable dawn for humankind? I tell you where we stand. It's not on 18.3%. Unfortunately, it's not. It's 17.8%. Yes, you heard me right. 17.8%. Which shows that clearly sport is not using its power to the fullest, and it's certainly not moving forward. It's moving backwards. It's not that I'm talking about the number of women who practice sport versus men. I'm not talking about the reasons why women's sport had to close doors while men's sports could resume their activity. I'm not referring to gender representation at consultative committee level or any other talking shop. I'm referring to those organs where real power lies, where those decisions that are really made. I'm referring to gender equality at the top table, the executive committee. So, ladies and gentlemen, 17.8%. What do you say to that? Is this the best that sport can do? Is this the finest example of democracy, equal rights, equal opportunities that sport can give? Is that all? I simply refuse to accept that. And I'm sure that every one of you who are attending this Web Summit feels exactly the same way. So against this background, what shall we do? Shall we just complain and do nothing about it? Shall we turn a blind eye? How can we use this momentum to accelerate the pace of change? What shall we say to the establishment out there who exalts their governance status by parading one woman token or two or three on executive committees with 9, 12, 15, 17, 38 men? What shall we, which means all of us, say to those so-called sports leaders who keep throwing into the future the realization of gender equality, like several governments have been ridiculously doing with the environment, kicking into 2030, 2050, the accomplishment of goals that should be accomplished now, while life in our planet is still seemingly viable? Are we ready, ladies and gentlemen, to tell them that we are not interested in 17.8%? Are we ready to tell them that we are not interested in 18.3%, and we are certainly not even interested in 33%? This is a decisive moment, and the choice you make right now will influence and impact the future. The future not only of sport and the image we wanted to portray, but the future of the generations who also have the legitimacy to serve sport, not just to feel the passion to participate in it, but also to take responsibility for its own affairs, regardless of the gender, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of how deep goes their pocket. So it is time for action. So I encourage you, I invite you, I urge you to come along, make your voice heard. Tell them that you want no favors, that you need no favors from them or anybody else. You want, you deserve, you expect, and you are entitled to equal rights and equal opportunities, regardless of genders, races, social backgrounds. Not in a decade from now, but now. To give the example, to lead the charge, I am proud to announce that is from the next SIGA elections, we will have not a quota of 1% or 10%, but absolute parity on the composition of all our internal organs, starting with the SIGA Council next month, when elections are held. You know, we mean business. You know, our word is only one. You know that we always deliver what we promise. Over the past 5 years, we have instigated change. You have been with us since inception. With your active engagement and your support, we have mobilized and united female leaders around one critical fundamental mission. And this is why we are here today, and will be tomorrow and on Wednesday. We have engaged men too in the conversation, because men are part of the solution, and they must step up and support women in this fundamental cause. And third, we have delivered long overdue and much needed tangible reforms. With our universal standards, starting with universal standards on good governance, of which gender equality, diversity, and inclusion are a fundamental pillar, but also by developing the SIGA independent rating system, the only system that can guarantee with objectivity, impartiality, and independence that organizations walk the talk, that organizations are truly advancing in the way they form themselves and operate. The SIGA independent rating and universal system serves. We have done the same with our global mentorship program for female leadership in sport. And how proud I am to see today 100 women from all over the world uniting, sharing information, sharing knowledge, sharing expertise, and leading towards a future of female empowerment and equality. But that's not all, because it's from this moment on, we will be developing the SIGA Sport Equality Index, so that we monitor, so that we follow, so that we scrutinize the progress that sports organizations are doing to ensure that the boardrooms are equally open to women, are equally open to all genders, and that meritocracy is the only valued and possible criteria. The man born in Portugal during a brutal fascist regime, the time where civil liberties were inexistent, where freedom of expression and assembly were severely repressed, and women were not even granted the same rights as men, my eyes were open to oppression, injustice, and discrimination at a very early age. Throughout my whole life, I always felt compelled to make choices, to pick sides, and fight against injustice, dictatorship, and the denial of human rights. Those who know me know that what I'm saying is the truth. There were times where I felt alone. Yes, there were. Many. But not today. And not tomorrow. For what is true is that you stand with SIGA. You are ready to fight the good fight, side by side with us, now and in the future. My name, you know it. It's Emmanuel Macid de Medeiros. I'm the global CEO of SIGA, and I count on you. Thank you.